Good evening, YouTube, Periscope, and a Facebook Live. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon, a retired NYPD detective with 20 plus years of law enforcement. And if you like all things true crime related and everything from a police perspective with a lot of professionals coming on in, this is the place where you want to be. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or when I upload another video. And tonight I have a special guest. Criminal defense attorney Joe Murray was kind enough to come. He is at his office in a remote location. We will not disclose that location because it's a secret bunker. But Joe Murray is in his office with his better half and some clients. They were working on a case. He was kind enough to squeeze us into his schedule. Thank you, as always, Joe Murray, for coming on to talk about Chad Daybell's arraignment today.
It's my pleasure, Ron. I love the show, and I love the cases that you follow. They're just so fascinating.
You know, not only are they fascinating, it makes it extra fascinating when we have experts like you come on. So on behalf of the community here and all the channel members, as you are a channel member yourself, and I thank you for that, we say thank you. We give thanks and praise for guys like you that will give the law enforcement and criminal defense attorney side. So your service is invaluable. I greatly appreciate that. So today we had Chad Daybell arraigned on the charges from the indictment. A lot of people, there was some confusion in some of my subscribers. They thought, well, the trial's going to start on the next court date. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about it right after this. But what we're going to do, folks, is, and thank you to the channel members, the Patreon supporters, and everybody who is chiming in, all of the folks who subscribe to this community. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to watch the hearing from today, the arraignment. And then Joe is going to go over all the points, all the high points and the low points of this. We're going to see some family here, so let's keep the chat, as always, respectful. We're going to see some family from his side. Chad Daybell's, I believe, his two sons and a daughter were there. So he has 5 children. Also from the Vallow family, we had Grandma Woodcock there, and we also had Colby Ryan was there as well. So it's a very emotional time. So let's segue into that so we can give everybody a viewing of what went down today, and we will be right back, me and Joe. Right, technical. Here we go.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Stephen W. Boyce presiding.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, good morning, everyone. We'll be on the record on this matter. This is case CR 22211623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Mr. Daybell is here present in court, appearing with his attorney, Mr. Pryor. Representing the state is Prosecutor Rob Wood and Lindsay Blake. Mr. Pryor, is your client ready to proceed with arraignment this morning?
We are, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the state ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well. This proceeding's being recorded by the FTR recording system. It's also being live streamed on the court's YouTube channel for public availability of the hearing. In addition, in order to allow public access, we do have limited seating here, and that's consistent with our Supreme Court's operating order for social distancing. So we do have people in the courtroom as well, pursuant to that order. Mr. Daybell, as you know, I'm Judge Boyce. I'm the district judge for Fremont County, and I've been assigned to preside over this case. In a few minutes, I'll arraign you on criminal charges that have been brought against you by the state of Idaho, pursuant to an indictment that was issued by a grand jury Before doing so, I'll explain what will happen at this arraignment and then advise you of your constitutional rights and plea options. If at any time you need to communicate with Mr. Pryor in confidence, please advise me. We can arrange to have the two of you in a separate place outside the record of the court or anyone else and have a personal discussion if you require that during the time of this hearing. In this case, there was an indictment issued by the grand jury on May 25th, 2021, and that indictment sets forth the criminal charges that have been brought against you. The indictment's not evidence, rather it sets forth the criminal charges against you that would be prosecuted by the state of Idaho in this case. Mr. Pryor, have you received a copy of the indictment and reviewed that with your client, Mr. Daybell?
Yes, Your Honor, and at this time, we will waive formal reading of that indictment, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Pryor. In a moment then, Mr. Daybell, I will advise you of the charges that are pending against you and explain the penalties associated with those charges. Next, I'll discuss, Mr. Pryor, your plea options and rights. The purpose of an arraignment is to have you enter a plea to the charges in the indictment. At the end of the arraignment, then you'll be asked to enter a plea. In that regard, you would have three options. Your first option is that you may enter a plea of not guilty to the charges. If you elect to plead not guilty, then a jury trial and a pretrial conference will be scheduled in this case. Also, by pleading not guilty, you would maintain all of your constitutional rights in this case, which rights were previously explained to you at an initial appearance on May 26, 2021, before the magistrate. Among those rights, you have, I'll go through some of those. You have the right to be presumed innocent. The presumption of innocence is a real and important right which lies at the foundation of our criminal justice system. Therefore, unless you either plead guilty at a later date or the state proves the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt at trial, the presumption of innocence remains in your case. You also have the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of your peers, as well as the right to see, hear, confront, and have your attorney question all witnesses who may be called to testify against you. During the pendency of your case and at trial, you also have the right to be represented by an attorney. As you are in custody, you also have the right to communicate with your attorney at all stages of your case, and reasonable access to communicate with your attorney will be provided throughout these proceedings. At your trial, you would have the right to present evidence in your defense and the right to the subpoena power of this court to compel the attendance of witnesses to testify on your behalf. And finally, if you plead not guilty, you will retain the right to remain silent and exercise the privilege against compulsory self-incrimination. This means that you cannot be required to testify against yourself. However, you may voluntarily take the witness stand at trial if you so choose, but you cannot be compelled to do so. If you decide not to testify in your own behalf, then the prosecuting attorney could make no remarks about your failure to testify and cannot imply to the jury that exercising your constitutional right to remain silent is any indication of your guilt. The second option you would have today is to enter no plea at all. If you decide to do that, the court would enter a plea of not guilty for you, and you'd continue to maintain all of the rights that I've previously explained. And your third option at this arraignment is that you may plead guilty to any or all of the charges. However, it is important that you understand that if you do plead guilty, you would automatically waive rights, including rights under the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, as well as similar rights contained in the Idaho Constitution. In other words, if you decide to plead guilty, you would waive your right to a trial. There'd be no trial in your case, and you'd no longer be presumed innocent. The state would no longer have the burden of proving the case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. By pleading guilty, you would also give up your 6th Amendment right to confront your accusers and cross-examine any witnesses against you, and give up your right to offer evidence of your own behalf in response to the state's case against you. You would also waive any defenses you have to the charges contained in the indictment, including any claims that there's a defect in the state of Idaho's case against you, or that you've been treated unfairly by the court. You'd give up also your 5th Amendment right to remain silent and the privilege against self-incrimination. And if you were to plead guilty, you would also be required to testify under oath concerning the facts of the alleged offenses in this case to allow me to determine whether or not there's a factual basis for your plea and whether the plea would be made knowingly, freely, and voluntarily, and to determine whether or not you fully understand the consequences of that plea. Finally, You are advised if you decided to plead guilty, any testimony that you give while under oath concerning the alleged offenses could and would likely be used against you at a later trial if I were to not accept your plea for some reason, or if you later withdrew your plea. It is very important you understand all the rights and options I just explained to you. Before we go any further then with this proceeding, Mr. Daybell, do you have any questions on any of those rights I've just explained to you?
No.
Very well. Mr. Daybell, in this case, then you were brought before this court to answer for the indictment filed in this case, which alleges you've committed serious crimes in that 8 felony charges have been filed in the grand jury's indictment. In that indictment, let me ask you a question. Mr. Pryor, do you have that before you? A copy of the indictment?
We do, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Is the defendant's name, Mr. Daybell, spelled and listed correctly on that indictment on the caption?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
All right. Thank you. At this time, then, I will go through the charges that are listed in the indictment and the penalties for each charge. After doing that, then, Mr. Pryor, I'll ask your client how he pleads. So I'll read through the list of charges first, and then I'll ask for the plea after that. Then the indictment that was filed on May 25th, in count 1, charges Mr. Daybell the offenses of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception, both felony counts under Idaho Code 18-1701, 18-4003A, 18-24031, 18-24034A, 18-24071B3. The count in count 1 names Tylee Ryan as the victim on the murder charge, and that count carries a penalty on the murder charge of it is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, and it provides that if the death penalty is not pursued by the state, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. The grand theft portion of that charge has a penalty of up to 14 years of prison and a fine of up to $5,000 and possible restitution. That's a summary of those charges, and you've waived the reading of the charges. So let me ask you on that count 1, Mr. Daybell, do you understand the charge and those possible penalties?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. The next count in the indictment is count 2. That is a count of first-degree murder under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-4002, 18-4003, subsection A, and 18-4004. And that count names Tylee Ryan as the victim. The possible penalty or punishment for that count is by death or imprisonment for life, and if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Do you understand that charge and the possible penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Count 3 of the indictment charges conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. Those are felonies under the same code sites that were previously listed under count 1. That count names Joshua Jackson Vallow, also known as JJ Vallow, as the named victim in that count. And the penalty for those charges on the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. On the charge of grand theft by deception, that would have a penalty of up to 14 years in prison and a fine of up to $5,000. Do you understand the charge in count 3 and those possible penalties, Mr. Daybell?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Count 4 of the indictment charges you with first-degree murder, a felony under the statute previously cited in the other counts also. That count names JJ Vallow as the victim, and again is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. If the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of up to 10 years. Do you understand count 4 and the possible penalties, Mr. Daybell?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, the next count listed in the indictment is count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. That count names Tammy Daybell as the named victim. It's charged again under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-4003, subsection A, and 18-1701. And that count is also punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Do you understand the charge in count 5 and the possible penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Count 6 of the indictment is a charge of first-degree murder. That names Tammy Daybell as the victim. It's charged under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-204, and 18-4003, subsection A. That count also is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, provided that if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Do you understand count 6 and those possible penalties, Mr. Daybell?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, count 7 of the indictment is not a charge against you, it's a charge against a co-conspirator. Count 8 of the indictment charges you, Mr. Daybell, with the crime of insurance fraud, which is a felony under Idaho Code Section 41-293. That is a felony that carries up to 15 years in prison and a fine of up to $15,000 plus restitution. Do you understand that charge and those possible penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, count 9 is also a charge of insurance fraud under that same statute. It carries the same penalty I just mentioned in count 8, which again is 15 years of prison and a $15,000 fine plus restitution. Do you understand that charge and those possible penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, that is a summary then of the charges that have been filed against you and the penalties. I would also note those penalties in each of the counts could be ordered to be served either concurrently, meaning running together, or consecutively. And so do you understand those charges could also run consecutively in those different counts, Mr. Daybell?
Yes, I do.
All right, at this time then, having gone through the counts and the possible penalties, at this point, I would ask your client how he intends to plea. Before I do that, Mr. Pryor, do you have any questions for the court or anything you need to discuss with your client before I ask for the plea?
No, Judge, and I anticipate that my client will be entering a plea of not guilty to all of the charges.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pryor. I will go through them then individually again. On count 1 of the indictment, Mr. Daybell, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
We'll enter the not guilty plea on count 1. On count 2, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
On count 3, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
On count 4, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
On count 5, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
On count 6, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
On count 8, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
And on count 9, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Very well. Not guilty pleas are entered as to all the counts in the indictment. At this time, normally we would discuss a trial setting. I talked to counsel in chambers before we started, and given the nature of the case, we've determined that we'll set a scheduling conference 2 weeks from today to get a trial set. Does your client agree to a scheduling conference in 2 weeks in lieu of a trial setting right now, Mr. Pryor?
Yes, I've discussed that with him, and at this point, Judge, if you need that representation, he will represent that he's agreeable to setting this out for a status conference for the purposes of scheduling this case for further proceedings.
All right, very well. Do you understand then we'll set your trial in 2 weeks in lieu of doing that today, Mr. Daybell?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So We'll hold that hearing on June 23rd. Council, any suggestions on time? I'm thinking probably just in the morning at 9:30.
That's acceptable to the defense, Your Honor.
And that works for the state as well, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, I'll set the scheduling conference for June 23rd at 9:30 a.m. We will conduct that hearing by Zoom. That will not be a live in-person proceeding. And at that time, we will get the matter set for a trial on these counts. I believe that concludes the matters we need to bring up on this case this morning. Then, is there anything further from the state on the case today?
Nothing further from the state at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Anything further from the defense, Mr. Pryor?
Nothing further from the defense. Judge, may we be excused?
You may. Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Your
That will
Honor.
conclude the
I can't stand when he says that. May we be excused. Says it every time. Let me bring back Joe on into the stream. Joe, what'd you think?
Listen, this is the Constitution at work here. They're satisfying their constitutional obligation of the Sixth Amendment to inform him, give him notice of what the charges are that he's facing, and he enters a plea. And you heard it. He entered a plea of not guilty. And they will proceed now to, it's interesting because, in New York City, we just have a log jam of cases. I don't know, Idaho, particularly with the pandemic, we have a backlog. We have retired judges they're bringing back to try to help clear up the backlog. So to talk about a June date, for a conference to set a trial date is just unbelievable for a New York lawyer to hear something like that. So I don't think that's possibly going to go forward. To me, there's still a lot of work to be done from the defense side because, we heard early on when the arrest and the indictments came down of all the search warrants that were done, the subpoenas and all that information and discovery that we know is there, and the defense is right to test it and challenge it and present their own experts to compete with the government's experts. There's a lot of work to be done here. So I don't think we're going to see a trial anytime soon. But, this is Idaho. I don't know what their backlog in murder cases is. It's not what New York has, but I'm sure there's still due process that needs to be done there.
Yeah, I agree. Again, nowhere is like New York. No part of the country. I don't even think Los Angeles has they probably do have a lot of cases, but nothing like what we've experienced. These folks over in Idaho. It was in St. Anthony's. That's the Rexburg County courthouse, I believe. I wanted to clear up a little bit of confusion. I received a lot of messages after this was over today. Now, obviously, I work a 9 to 5. You're out there defending people in court and whatnot. I got a few messages from some of my fans, and this is the message, Joe. Ron, DutyRon, does this mean the trial is starting on the 23rd, on June 23rd? Joe, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely not. That's I can tell you definitely, and I'm not from Idaho, but that's not going to happen. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done for a murder case like this. There's so much forensic work. Think about what they did on his property. FBI exhumed the bodies that were recovered there. They have to determine a cause of death. There's all kinds of lab testing and forensic testing that has to go on. And discovery shared, right? He has the right to have his own experts look at this evidence and draw their own conclusions so that, even the search warrants, think about the search warrants, where they went to search. It's not a given that the search warrants are valid. You have the right to contest the search warrants and say that it wasn't based on accurate facts, that maybe somebody was inaccurate with the facts and it would not have ordinarily been granted if the true facts were presented. There's so many things that are at play here. Yeah.
Let's pinpoint it for those questions. I don't want anyone to be misguided, or any of the ladies and gentlemen that are true crime buffs. The June 23rd next court date is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to determine a trial date in the future.
It's
So
a conference, and ordinarily in a case like that, it's a conference because now both sides will be able to present issues. Well, there's discovery outstanding. We're waiting to hear back from an expert. We're waiting to get lab reports. They'll present to the judge, and the judge will set down, okay, how long do you expect that to take? And then he'll pick a trial date. So it may not be, in the instant future, it may be prolonged, and he may set a further conference date to see if we're closer to reaching that point of readiness.
right, I would imagine it would go something similar to this. Mr. Pryor, what dates do you have open, or what time frame do you feel you need to prepare yourself? Mr. Means, is this appropriate? Can you accommodate these start dates? Because as you know, picking a jury of the peers is going to be a task in itself, right?
Correct.
And the defense and the prosecution is involved in that, correct?
Yes, but don't forget, we also have that 60-day window in which the government can determine whether or not they're going to seek a death penalty. Now, without knowing that, how could you possibly be able to say I'm ready for trial without knowing if this is a death penalty case? So on top of which you have your experts. I'm sure we're going to hear from a lot of experts here about and clearly the law requires that we turn over both sides, reciprocal discovery of our experts, who they are, what their qualifications are, and what is it they're going to testify to.
Right.
And that gives us the ability to prepare for that testimony. There's a lot of preparation that goes into a trial. Trials are fun. I really like trials.
Yeah.
Trials to me, and I say this to a lot of people, I used to box. I love boxing. You go out there, yes, round after round, slugging it out. Okay, I won this round. Let's go after another. Trials are the next greatest thing because with each witness, the prosecutor goes first, and you get to fight back. And then at the end, just like in a boxing ring, you're standing there. Will the defendant rise? And the jury comes in, and you're waiting for that verdict. It's just like in the ring. And in the blue corner, they raise your hand. It's guilty or not guilty. So for a prosecutor or a defense attorney, you work your heart out preparing. Just like a fighter, you get in there and you put forth your evidence, you fight your fight, and then you get the result. And it's just, it's the greatest system we have in the world, in my opinion.
Right. And it is a boxing match. It is a match between the prosecution, who has the burden of proof, right? They have to prove their case, the state.
Correct.
And then you have the defense, who is going to question and challenge every bit of their evidence, how it was collected, how it was conducted, how the interviews were done. Let me just quickly say, let me shift gears because a lot of people are asking. Inside the court, we saw 3 of Chad Daybell's 5 children. It was Garth, Emma, and I believe Seth. Leah and Mark were not present. We saw Colby Ryan, the older brother of Tylee and JJ, and the grandmother of JJ, Kay Woodcock. I send love and respect and strength to those folks. That is the ending of when I end my show. I always say, sending strength and God bless all victims of crime and their family. That would include them. I want to show quickly another piece of media. This is Kay Woodcock and Colby Ryan, accompanied by 2, a male and a female. I don't know who they were, but the male looked like a big guy and he was ready for action. So maybe it was a security guy or maybe it was a family member. I don't know. But let's play this quickly. It's only a couple of minutes. But Nate Eaton from East Idaho News, I tip my cap to you, Nate. You got some great coverage here. I will link down below the eastidahonews.com website and all of their links to their show. Give them credit. So let me play that quick, Joe, and we will be back. It's just like 2 minutes.
Sure.
Hi.
How do you feel?
glad that we're moving on to the next step. And albeit 1 year to the day where they murdered, well, I'm sorry, not when they murdered him, 1 year to the day where we found out that they for sure were dead. And they unearthed him in his backyard, pleading not guilty. He might as well just, I think he should just give it up. And
This is Kay Woodcock.
how do you have 2 kids in your backyard and you don't know anything about it? And it's just, I know it's the justice system, but anyway.
I noticed you got emotional and reached over and held Colby's hand during the hearing. Were you expecting that?
No.
That emotional?
I didn't expect that. And it just kind of, as with all this, it just kind of waves over you, comes over in a wave and of emotion. And it just making it more real, because it just seemed surreal for a long time. And as you accept it more and more, I guess I'm speaking for myself, but things just get to be more real.
How was it seeing him entered count after count, not guilty? Just count after count saying no.
Just, he's a liar. He's a liar. But we gotta go, y'all.
Anything you want to say, Colby?
Unless you guys have a question.
Yeah, what did you think being here today, a year to the day that Tylee and JJ were found?
It's hard. It's really hard. Seeing him, knowing he did it, and knowing everything about the truth and just this whole process is really hard. Obviously, we've all had to go through it, but he's going to say what he's going to say. He's going to lie about it. From the beginning, they've lied about it. So
I just had to stop it for a second. My heart breaks for this, for Colby Ryan. Every time I see him talk, I watch a lot of his YouTube channel that he has and some of the media. He's got a podcast with his wife. He's my youngest son's age, and I just want to hug this kid because he has seen so much in his short life as a young man, and I commend him for the way he carries himself. So I wanted to show you guys this because this was very emotional, and I thought it would be good for all of the viewers outside the country who don't have access to this coverage. Don't forget my Australian viewers, my folks in New Zealand, my South Africa folks, they're not seeing this like we have. So that's the reason I'm playing this.
there's nothing you can do about it.
What are some of the memories that you were thinking about this morning when you woke up?
Look at the emotion.
I was just thinking about all the good times we've had. That's all I can hold on to. I think that's all we can really remember. You don't want to have all of your memories be bad. You don't want all your memories to be about them being gone. And just thinking about all the times we just had normal days, waking up, especially in summers, stuff like that, swimming, enjoying each other. That's what I hold on to.
Ready?
You guys want to add?
All right, I'm going to stop it there because they just follow him around. I'm not going to play that part. Joe, real emotional. That's a 25-year-old, son of Charles Vallow. He had to grow up real quick. He's a young man, many years beyond his age in maturity because of this heinous crime that happened to not only his brother and sister, but also his father. So, real difficult. I want to talk to you about Lori Daybell Vallow. She, on Tuesday of this week, was officially committed to the Department of Health Welfare for a mental evaluation and treatment. I really feel strongly about this statement that I'm about to make, and I don't care what kind of backlash I get for it, but she was able to be cleared in Arizona at the Bridges program for mental health and for sound mind and body. And she was quickly cleared over there in Arizona. But now that she's accused of these heinous crimes, and again, I'm going to take some backlash for it. And I'm not asking you for your opinion, Joe, but all of a sudden now she has the audacity to delay this trial by saying that she's not of sound mind. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. And at the end of the day, I know that she's entitled to that, and that's part of whatever is going on. Her attorney, she was probably speaking. I don't doubt she was speaking cockeyed to him and talking probably about the 144. And on this, July of 2020, the world was supposed to end. She's still holding on to that, but she wasn't holding on to it when her husband Charles Vallow was murdered by her brother. She was not holding on to it then. She was all jolly and fun and games. And when she was in Hawaii with the luau and getting married to Chad, she was fine. She was actually cocky with Nate Eaton when he said, "What about your children? Where are your kids? Why aren't you?" She's like, "That's nice." I mean, I don't buy it, Joe. I don't buy this bag of shit. And I'm sorry for the language. I'll do it. I'll do it the right way. I don't buy this bag of. Really, what's your thoughts on this, Joe? Seriously,
Well,
you're a defense attorney, but you were also a cop. You were also a cop at one time.
Yes, and I have to tell you, what you're seeing here, again, let's go back to that trial date that we were supposed to get. She's currently incompetent. They have to render her competent, and the standard is so that she can meaningfully contribute to her defense. Like I told you in the last time, like we as the attorneys have the legal knowledge. The client has the factual knowledge. We say to them, what was going on here? What happened there? Together, we can put up a defense with the law and the facts when they come together. When your client is incompetent, they are unable to meaningfully to contribute to your defense. You can't go forward. So I don't think it's something that will be permanent. You got to think about this, and it's hard to find sympathy for somebody in this situation, but 1 minute, like you said, they're in Hawaii getting married, the love of her life, and enjoying, the beach and a bikini and out there. And the next minute she's on Skid Row here facing a potential death sentence. I guarantee you she's not sleeping. Her lawyer's trying to, get her to focus on what's happening, and she's completely just, overwhelmed. They're going to remedy that. They're going to treat her, medicate her. She'll then be able to relax and control herself. Anxiety will come down, and it will render her competent so that she can contribute to her defense and make decisions about her defense. Yeah. Don't think that's going to be permanent. It's not.
Oh, I know, Joe. And at the end of the day, that was my emotions getting the better of me. And I get really connected to these cases, and I, as this is my channel, this is our channel together here. I couldn't not put that out there because that's the feeling that I'm getting in my heart, and as an investigator, and that's the feeling that probably tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that are out there feel the same way. Bill Cannon, thank you for the $20 super sticker. Joe, I'm going to have to take him out to dinner. Like, it's not going to be, this is not going to be Chili's or Outback Steakhouse. I'm going to have to bring him to Cooper's and Bryan or wherever. We're going to have to.
Sorry you didn't make it to Bardo. That was outstanding. We had a wonderful cuff event over there. It was great.
I know. I'll make the next one, but you know what Bill's going to say? You'll get a break over there. I want you to pay full boat. So I'm going to have to go to like Peter Luger's or some kind of place like that. Fuzzy Doxy, thank you for the $5 super chat. DutyRon, he's all messed up mentally because she's been in jail, away from her beach, nice house, hair and makeup and products. I agree, Fuzzy Doxy. Thank you for the super love. Let me reel this in really quickly. What are the conditions that Lori Daybell, Vallow, Daybell, what kind of conditions is she seeing over at the mental hospital that she's in, Joe?
Well, it depends. I mean, she's going to be, clinically diagnosed and treated medically, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be medication to tranquilize her and relax her and allow her to sleep, allow her to refocus.
Right.
And that's what you really want. We don't want people that are just, think about it. And again, I'm trying to, it's hard to find sympathy for someone like this. You want them to be tortured to death if they're guilty of it. But when you have in our system, we do have glitches and we do have wrongful convictions. So you want the optimum situation to be in place when you're putting forth, especially, there's a doctrine called death is different. You can't overturn and reverse a death sentence after the person's been already executed. So you really got to get this right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Joe. I'm with you 100%. Our criminal justice system and the Constitution is there for all of our protections. That being said, it's just frustrating enough with the heinous crimes that they are accused of. Okay, you look at Chad Daybell, and he is stone cold, stone faced, taking it on the chin, and just probably has all the confidence in the world in Mr. Pryor. And at the end of the day, you should have confidence in your defense attorney. If you don't, then you're in big trouble. You should be looking to get rid of whoever you have representing you if you're not confident in their defense.
Well, I mean, quite often I'm the second or third guy in because people are just not comfortable. They're not going in the same direction. And that's the worst. That's a disaster for a trial when you're at the defense table. Your lawyer is saying something, then the defendant is, oh man, you have to be, as an attorney, you're the representative of your client, and most defendants don't testify for good reason.
Right.
And so you're their voice, you're their mouthpiece. So you have to be in sync with each other, and the juries look at that.
Yeah.
They look to see the synergy between you and your client. It means a lot because they're not going to hear from your client.
Yeah, so these two look like they're in sync, and he has confidence. You can just tell it emulates in the way Mr. Pryor handled himself. He's on the record. He's professional. He stands up each time he's addressing the judge. These are all standard things that attorneys are supposed to do when they're in court. It's a matter of respect for the bench, if you will. Kim, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker or super chat. Oh, actually, that's a super chat. Thank you, Kim. She says, with all the death around these two, are they a couple of serial killers? Maybe. I say maybe.
He's already, right? 6 of them.
I say maybe. Yeah, 6, maybe more. Who the hell knows? What's your thoughts, Joe, on the 60-day or 90-day time frame for the prosecution to come forward with capital punishment here? What would be your thoughts on that? And this would be just a predicament, a prediction. Predicament. This is a prediction by Joe. I say that it's a 50-50. Take a coin, flip it up in the air. But either way, and my answer to this, either way, these two, if convicted of all the charges or even one of those top charges, will not see the light of day for the rest of their natural born life. And at the end of it all, that would be justice served, in my opinion. But seeing them fried or on a firing squad, I would volunteer for that. Navy vet, thank you for the $20. Will LV be guarded in the facility or allowed to roam freely? She could try running out if not watched. I can answer that because I know she will be in not just a regular mental hospital. She is going to be in the prison ward because she is a prisoner of the state. Okay, so my answer to that is 1,000% unequivocally. I don't care what you hear on Facebook and all the bullshit, rumors. She is not going anywhere. She's not going to get to walk out because she is going to have a guard watching her 24/7, and she's going to be in a secured lockup facility. Joe, what's your thoughts on what we were talking about before that with the death penalty?
Yeah, death penalty is it's a difficult decision. Like I said, these are I think, from what I've seen so far, very good prosecutors. They're very methodical about the way they present that. I particularly watched that preliminary hearing. I thought it was well done. So I'm very confident they've made their decision already. But like anything else, if you're giving me 60 days to make a decision, I'm in no rush to make it. And I'm sure they're looking at all kinds of factors. They're looking at even public sympathy for these people, or the opposite,
Right.
the ire to bury them. That's all going to, play a role. But I think the decision's already been made. I got to tell you, I mean, in a case like this where we're talking about demons and she's already declared incompetent at this point and she's being rendered competent, I think you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble for people to say execute them. I don't know what Idaho jurors are like and what the death qualifying process is, but I think, let me just throw something out.
Okay.
There's something here that I call it there's mistake of fact and mistake of law. If a defendant makes a mistake of law, tough luck. You're responsible to abide by the law. When you make a mistake of fact, that's something that can negate that you had the intent to commit this crime. Now, this is a weird case, and I've never had anything like this, but I'll just give you a comparative to analogize this with. We had the Diallo shooting in the Bronx, where 4 police officers made a mistake of fact, thinking that an unarmed black man holding a wallet, because he thought he was going to be stopped by the police, that wallet was a firearm. And they shot at him 41 times.
Wheeler Avenue, I was working.
Struck him 19 times. They went to trial on a murder charge, and the jury said they were justified because their mistake of fact was a reasonable mistake. That it wasn't, so outrageously outlandish. When he turned with his wallet, it looked like a firearm, and in their own defense, they thought they were faced with deadly physical force. They fired.
Right.
Here we have in the Daybell case, and I don't know all of the facts, but they're alleging that there's some kind of religious or demonic possession. I've heard them talk about zombies and possession and multiple lives, that to save them from these zombies, we had to remove them from their bodies or something of that nature. I don't know what the defense is going to be.
Right.
But
Are you saying that the defense for Chad Daybell and perhaps Lori Vallow can go that route of claiming the reasoning behind these murders are because of their extreme religious beliefs? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I believe that's what happened. I think we're getting that when you listen to the interview of, what's her name, Melanie Gibb.
Yes.
Who testified about their beliefs and what they were espousing. I think that's what really happened. Am I wrong? I mean, that's
no. It's a possibility, but I have thought it in my mind, but I never said it. But I've heard many people in the fake book news groups and all this stuff talk about this. And that's that's an extreme possibility for a defense. And I'm glad you brought it up, because this is your realm. This is your business. You know that is a viable excuse, or not excuse. What's the word? That's a viable justification.
Well, I want to point out too, there was some changes in the law in Idaho in 2018. The law was changed where most jurisdictions, a justification defense, that you're making a justification defense. I didn't do this. I did it because I had to.
Right.
It's an affirmative defense where the defendant is required and has the burden to prove that they were justified in the action they took.
Right.
In 2018, the Idaho legislature flipped that burden. They now put that burden on the prosecutor to prove beyond a reasonable doubt
I read that.
were not justified. That's a tough burden.
That's huge. That's huge. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Joe, because hearing it from somebody from the defense side really it hits home. And I hope and pray that if they do go that route, that they're not successful. But if they do go that route, at least we heard it here first on Crime Time with DutyRon. So thank you for that, Joe. If you don't mind, I want to go to, first of all, thanking your better half. Angela, thank you, Ange, for the super chat. You are too generous, and I feel somehow that I'm going to have to eventually pay that back to you through Joe. But I don't mind. I don't mind that one bit. But no, seriously, thank you so much for that, Ange. I appreciate it. All the behind the scenes work that you do for Joe and also for me. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. Joe, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to some private questions that were sent in by some viewers. 12-Step Woman is a channel member and a Patreon supporter, a valued subscriber of the channel. And she says, Ron and Joe, is there a law that would hold Chad not responsible for funding his spouse, Lori's legal fees? Did he formally reveal a reason not to do so? He was originally supporting her with an attorney and paying, and then he decided to not pay as this storm has developed. As it got deeper and deeper, he withdrew and stopped funding her, and she was deemed indigent. Right. That's the question we all want to know about the legality of the spouse, Chad, being responsible for funding the wife, Lori, her legal fees, and if so, has this been discussed?
Well, that's an interesting question because spouses in most jurisdictions, you either have a community property state where everything is 50-50 down the middle and whatever has been acquired during the marriage, or you have equitable distribution jurisdictions where they'll look at the merits of, who acquired the money, but still there's always an economic interest in anything that is acquired during the marriage. Two major exceptions: personal injury lawsuits. If you get hurt in a car accident, that's not joint money, that's your money.
Right.
And inheritance. If you inherit from a family member, as we had in this case, you inherit, whether it's a life insurance policy or just assets that pass on to you, that's separate property. But outside of that, any salaries from either party, that's joint property. So I don't see why she wouldn't have access to the marital funds unless it's this life insurance money or something to that effect.
As we know in the charges, the life insurance money he obtained was obtained allegedly fraudulently for his wife, Tammy. So the insurance policy and all that scamming that he did came back to bite him in his rear end, and he's being charged with that. She is being charged with taking Social Security money for her children who are already deceased. I want to move along because there's a ton of questions. I'm weeding out the redundant ones and the ones that we've answered. Jen Lowe has asked this question. We already answered it. In your opinion, do you think Lori Vallow will serve time for all of her charges? This is directed to you, Joe. Do you think Lori Vallow will serve time for any of her charges?
I can't possibly predict that, not knowing really what the evidence is. I think that she's the heavy in this, in my opinion. More people, are dying at her hand than Chad. So I think she's got the most jeopardy, but I don't know. I don't know what the evidence is. I don't know what the defense is.
Right. And we have to wait.
You got to be careful of that. I'm telling you, I was looking at those laws. There were a few different changes that were made. I wish I could bring that up. If you give me a minute, I'll bring it up.
Okay. You look it up and I will continue on. Jen Lowe also asked, do you think Chad Daybell will actually receive the death sentence in any of the murder charges he's facing? That is all predicated on what the prosecution decides to go forward, Jen. We answered that question earlier. That is all in limbo, and we have that 60-day or 90-day period. I believe it's 90. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. Prosecution has 90 days, or is it 60?
60. But I got to tell you, though, I ran for district attorney, and there's a respect for the law and respect for the people. When you're the district attorney, you represent, and it actually, as you know, in each criminal complaint, it says the people of the state of New York against whoever the defendant is. You're representing the people. So part of representing the people of your jurisdiction is you have to look at the law. Now, the death penalty is in part of the law there. And how is the law created? Our representatives, we vote for them, and they enact these laws. So now, as my duty as the district attorney is to carry out the wishes of the people. They've spoken and said the death penalty is warranted. So unless there's something really, detracting from this case, like the mental illness thing, I think is a problem. The religious thing is a problem. These people that, especially like when I hear Melanie Gibbs talk about how she loves them and they're such wonderful people. I don't know. I mean, that's something to really consider. But the people have spoken. They've elected their officials who enacted this death penalty. It's there, and as a prosecutor, I'm going to use it to, in fact, carry out the wishes of the people.
Yeah. Well put, Joe. And everything you explain is in layman's terms, and that's really layman's terms is what people understand. Instead of legal mumbo jumbo, you're really laying it out properly. And I appreciate that you do that, Joe, because a lot of the folks, including myself, I have a little bit of experience inside court because of my profession, but some of these folks have never been in a courtroom ever. Joshua wants to know, are they keeping Chad on suicide watch? And we already know about Lori. She's in a institution right now being evaluated. I would say my guess at that would be perhaps. But if he in fact was, I think it would be out in the media and Nate Eaton would be talking about it. What's your thoughts on that, Joe?
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any inside information. I think Nate, who's been on top of this story, and I linked up with that news site, to get updates.
Right. That's EastIdahoNews.com. I'll link it down below. Also links to Joe Murray's law firm in the description and on my website, DutyRon.com. Also, if you're not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon when I go live. I want to quickly just clear out these questions. The last one is, do you think Melanie Gibb will have to testify? Joe, I'll let you take that.
Oh, I think she's definitely testifying. I think she's bought and paid for by the prosecutor. And as a defense attorney, I would beat her up with that. They're alleging that there's no, proffer that was given to her, a grant of immunity or anything like that. I guarantee you that if it were not for her being so friendly to the prosecutors, she would be charged.
Right.
She's an accessory. She's an accessory after the fact because she knew these people. She was the best person who knew both of them, actually brought them together. She's in alignment with their beliefs, the go-to person for them. And she, in fact, helped to, hide the liability there when they call to ask her, please say that JJ's with you, and she said yes. And she told the officer he was with me and then left. Like, she was nervous about it, but that's an accessorial conduct. She could be indicted for this. So I guarantee you they made that clear to her. And she now, even in some of her statements now, when I look at the way she's, testified, she really exaggerates when Chad was on the phone, how nervous he was and how upset he was. I guarantee you that wasn't the case. I could read it, just from hearing her testimony and knowing the facts.
No, you're right. You're right. I think 100% she's going to
exaggerated because she's a bought and paid prosecutor witness.
Yeah.
That's something people have to look at,
Yeah, I definitely concur with that. I feel that she is definitely some way involved and wrapped into this thing, and she was definitely a believer. I don't care what anybody says and how nice and smiley she was when she sat down with Nate Eaton for an hour or two and gave a 2-part interview with the grassy knoll with the bushes in the background and the outdoors, and she was just all smiles. I didn't buy it. So Andy Crayon's a big channel supporter, a subscriber and a great friend says, thank you for the $10 super chat, Andy. It's a busy chat and sometimes I miss these things. So thank you for reminding me. I love and respect you tremendously, Andy Crayons. Can Chad waive his speedy trial in order to give the defense more time to build his case? Question mark. And I don't think religious defense will fly because Idahoans, I know I said that wrong, won't stand for such a stain on the LDS church. What do you think of that two-part question, Joe?
Two-part, yes. That's always something that, we're asked to do and we do on behalf of our clients. But when it comes to, murder charges, the statute of limitations, not the statute of limitations, speedy trial is essentially, non-existent because it's an A1 felony. It's, the most severe charge you can get. There are constitutional speedy trial rights, but like I said, we're talking Idaho here.
Right.
They don't nearly come near the backlog we do. We have cases that last 3-4 years before they hit trial, and it's constitutional.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're running into any foul play there. But I do think that there's so much to this case, so much evidence and reciprocal discovery. The prosecutor's waiting to see what they're going to turn over so they can prepare for it in their rebuttal case against the defense case. So there's really a lot here, and I think it would be a shame, and I have no experience with Idaho, but it would be a shame to rush this case to trial.
Right. I agree. And what was the second part of her question that she asked? I completely forgot it. Should have left it up. I just wanted to not cover you up. Let me just look back for that second part.
Okay.
Sugar plum. I can't get it, guys. Sorry about that.
Is there a possibility I can share my screen with you?
No, I'd have to have access to it, so I can't share it. Andy Crayons, I apologize. I forgot what the second part of that question was. But listen, I want to show you guys quickly our Discord group. I'm going to encourage you folks to come on over and join the Discord group. I'm going to give you a quick sample of what it looks like so you guys can come in and enjoy some chat with DutyRon after hours. So here's a look into my Discord group. These are some of the chatters that are in there right now as we speak. We have a COVID-19 room. We have a crime and chat room. We have a health room, photos, music, videos, food and drink, tech chat, movie and TV, Patreon members only. We have listening, voice chats, and all kinds of goodness inside the DutyRon Discord. All you'd have to do is send me an invite, and I share all of my videos on here, and you can see some of the people in there just sending pleasantries to each other. Sometimes a lot of pleasantries. There's Bill's Police Off the Cuff. I'm sharing that in my Discord and various other creators who are good friends of mine. So this is a look at the Discord group. Go on over to DutyRon.com. It's there in the chat. Send a request that you want to join the Discord server, and I'd love to add you guys in so we can continue the conversation after the live stream. It brings me to the next point. Tomorrow night, Joe and I, Joe is getting paid overtime. Man, that $550 an hour rate. I don't know how I'm coming up with this, but maybe you can bill me out over like 9120, and I'll pay it, out to you.
We'll make the payment beers and chicken wings. So
absolutely, right up my alley. Let's talk about our show tomorrow night, Joe. We're going to have a special guest talking about the Barry Morphew case, what's going on with him, some of the defense tactics, some of the things that are ongoing, and what the judges are trying to accomplish for a fair trial in the future. I'm not going to go into everything that we're going to talk about, but we are going to have a special guest. Joe, you want to tell the audience who we're going to have on tomorrow? This is going to be a first on any true crime YouTube channel. I have not seen this yet. So, Joe, I'll let you take it away and just let the audience know who we're going to have on tomorrow night to supplement the live stream.
Well, I mean, God bless him that he's willing to carve out some time to do this for us. But Peter Krusko is a dear friend of mine. Is one of my mentors bringing me up. I actually interned for him when I was in law school. He's been a prosecutor 42 years, state, federal, local. He's done it all, backwards and forwards. If I won my election, he would have been my chief assistant. I also have a dear friend of mine, Mike Scotto, who is the bureau chief of the Rackets Bureau in Manhattan. I've been talking to him about trying to get him to come on. Pete and Mike are my number one and number two guys to take over that office and do the right thing. They're such ethical, wonderful prosecutors. So I've asked Pete to join us if we can have a discussion, because he has so much experience. And he's willing to do it. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm looking forward for you guys to meet him and hear what he has to say, because I listen to him. It's very important.
I'm going to just say quickly, because you left out some really important key points. And if those of you who don't know Pete Krusko, I got to tell you, he's a former federal, state, and New York City prosecutor. He pointed this out to me on our hour-long conversation. He has prosecuted on the federal level, on the state, and on the local in Queens County.
Absolutely.
He's a criminal attorney, a trial attorney, a commercial litigator, a corporate counsel case. The cases include, among others, federal and state white-collar criminal defense, commercial litigation, financial crimes, First Amendment, civil rights, EEO. This guy covers everything. I could go on. This thing is like 5 paragraphs long.
Yeah.
He's going to join us tomorrow night for a special live stream to give you guys an understanding of a prosecutor's mindset. He's going to give us what is going on in Chaffee County, what's going on in some of the other cases, because I know he won't just be a one and done. He is going to be with us.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, we could spend all day talking about people. I'll just give an example. Other jurisdictions, when they have conflict cases that they can't prosecute, they ask for him. And now you're really supposed to take your adjoining county under the law, but Suffolk County repeatedly asked him, and there's Nassau in between us, they repeatedly step over Nassau and grab Pete to come in and do their conflict cases. He's just so, prolific with his knowledge of the law and his delivery. You'll see when you meet him.
Yeah. And just from my conversation with him, it was just a home run. And somebody here in the chat just put, I'm going to put this in, golden nuggets tomorrow night. That's great. Thank you, Anne-Marie Rubenecker. I appreciate that comment. It is going to be golden nuggets. It's going to be a first, never seen before on any true crime channel that I know of. Maybe somebody snuck one in there, but I haven't been able to find anybody with a former prosecutor that prosecuted federally, state, and local. And he is also an attorney now, has his own private practice, and he's a criminal defense attorney. So
don't forget, even though we are friends, we both have our perspectives here as defense attorney versus prosecutor. We're gonna give you a show.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. And not only are we going to have these two fine gentlemen on, I am going to have an illustrious, unbelievable true crime creator that's going to join us tomorrow night. It's going to be a special live stream. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll just give you one little hint. She is awesome, and she is going to be joining us tomorrow night. Look for a preview around 2:00 tomorrow afternoon Eastern time by yours truly, remotely from the car. We're going to talk about the up and coming live stream tomorrow. And I will reveal at that time who is going to be coming on with us. And she's awesome. So you're not going to want to miss the show tomorrow night. It's 9 p.m. Eastern. 9 p.m. Eastern. Joe will be in his studio at home, so the audio will be sounding good. Andy Crayons says, which is preferred, to join on YouTube or Patreon? Patreon to me is more intimate and personal, because I share a lot of things on Patreon that I don't share here. So if you had a choice, or if you were asking me what's better, Patreon is the best way to support this community, in my view, because Patreon, 99% of it goes straight to the channel. There's no 30% fee taken from the channel memberships from YouTube. And it's a way to communicate with me off of YouTube. I give everybody my personal cell phone. We talk and chat about crime related cases. It's not a love affair. It's a love affair for true crime. So if you want to get to know me more and see some more up close and personal stuff with DutyRon and some of my family stuff, go over to Patreon and support on Patreon. Tomorrow night, guys, 9 o'clock, set your alarms. I'm going to set up a live stream so you guys can set it up and ring the bell and put the notice on. But yeah, Joe, thank you for taking out your time. We're over an hour and 10 minutes, so we got overtime incurred again here. Fill an OT slip out and leave it on the desk. I'll have the LT sign it.
I gotta say, I love this though, and I particularly love the comments that follow.
Yeah.
And I love responding to them. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, I'm happy to engage you in the comment section.
Yeah, he always engages down in the comment section. I told him about that a couple of days ago, and Joe thought that once it was over, there was really nothing to do. So now he knows about it. He's looking at the comments. Definitely, put some comments down below in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe and like tomorrow night's epic live stream on the Barry Morphew. We may even take Pete down the lane of Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow towards the end, because I know my guest, in addition to Joe and Pete, she is going to have a treasure trove of questions. So you better get your lawyer bag ready, and you're all ready for our special guest coming on. It's going to be awesome. Guys, I'm going to end the live stream as I always do. Thank you for the replay viewers, the Patreon, the channel members, the regular subscribers, the regular folks who leave comments all over the place. Everybody is all very important to me. It's not about Patreon and all that stuff. We all do it collectively as a family. So I appreciate everybody, no matter how you watch the videos, let the ads play, shop on my Amazon affiliate link. Those are free ways to support the channel. I know everyone has different struggles that they go through. This is a family. So we all have problems. We all have issues. Don't take it like, well, I can't support you financially. It's not a problem. You're all welcome here. And Joe knows that to be true. And everybody that's been here knows that's true. Again, please definitely share this live stream. Get the message out. We put out a lot of great information thanks to Joe Murray, criminal defense attorney. Go over to his website. I'll link it down below. Joseph W. Murray, attorney at law. You see the sign in the background there. He is in his office tonight doing overtime with me. So I appreciate that. As I always end them, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat and all victims of crime across the country, across the world, and their families. Good night from New York City. Joe, thank you again. And we'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Take care, everyone.